Hi, it's Cayman with S&B Tanks, and today we're going to be installing our S&B tank on a 2019 Chevy 2500. This fits all 2011 and up crew cab short bed Duramaxes, and today it's going to be installed on a 2019. To start, if you already got your S&B tank, take out the card and use your phone to scan the QR code reader. Then this is going to have the most updated install instructions, so rather than watching the video, you can just scan the QR code and follow along there. This install can be done on a lift or on the ground. Today we're going to be doing it on a lift. And regardless, the first step is going to be removing the skid plate for the fuel tank. So there's 3 bolts. First bolt here, then there's a midway bolt, then there's a bolt in the rear. Then on the drive shaft side, the skid plate is just held in by some tabs. So we'll remove these bolts and we'll slide the skid plate out. Then we're just going to lift up the skid plate to get it over the tabs, and it'll fall right out. Now we're going to take the truck up to a safe working height. Now we're going to remove the hose clamp on the filler neck of the tank itself. So we're going to follow this biggest hose down to the tank, and there'll be a hose clamp on there. And we'll take our flathead screwdriver and remove the hose clamp that's on the tank. Next, we're going to remove the 2 fittings, the fuel line fittings that are in front of the tank. So the first one's a green one here on the driveline side, and we are going to push these tabs up towards the drive shaft, then out, and it'll slide out the green locking tab. Once that's out, we'll just gently pull away and be careful not to take a diesel shower. Next, we're going to remove this yellow connector that's on the frame side. Slide out the yellow tab. It might pop off, then there's a button right here where my thumb is. Press the button, and we're going to pull the line apart. Since we're using a lift, we're now going to center up a transmission jack onto the middle part of the tank, so we can remove the front and the rear strap. If you don't have a transmission jack, you won't be able to do this step, so just be careful when you remove the connections off the top part of the tank. Now we're going to remove the rear and the front strap. To do this, we're going to start on the frame side, and with a 15mm socket, we're going to loosen up these 2 bolts here, and then go over to the driveline side and remove the strap that way. Then to remove the strap, you're just going to want to lift up on the driveline side, and there's just hooks. It comes out of, so you can see these are just lodging hooks. We pushed up and pulled out. This is when you're going to wish you had a empty tank, or really close to empty tank, because right now we have about a little less than half of a tank in here. So I'm going to have my buddy hold the front part of the tank while we lower the tank with a jack, and we're going to lower it about 6 inches to make it really easy to get the electrical connector and the vent line off the top of the tank. But if you're doing this on the ground, you can remove the electrical connector and the vent line at the top of the tank before you even remove the straps, just to prevent the fuel line vent or the electrical connector from ripping. Now we're going to remove the hose clamp here off of the vent line. After removing the hose clamp and removing the vent line, now we're going to go to the electrical connector, and we'll show you this after, but you're going to slide the red tab completely out, and then you're going to depress the button. To get that electrical connector off, what we did is it was plugged in this way. We used our flathead screwdriver to push the red tab all the way out so it falls off. Then the button to depress is on the top. As you can see, the S&B tank is a lot bigger than the stock tank, and now we're going to work on transferring over the fuel lines and the sending unit over to the S&B tank. Now we're going to remove the OEM locking ring from the OEM tank, and we're going to hit this counterclockwise. And now we're going to go and break off the lines from the 3 positions on the tank. Now that the OEM sending unit is loose, we're going to prep the S&B tank by putting the S&B O-ring into the O-ring groove. And we are going to lift up. Be sure not to bend the float that's still in the tank. And we're going to do our best to pour out the diesel into the OEM tank. Now we can take this over to the S&B tank. And you'll see here the tab is facing towards the arrow on the S&B tank. So we'll get our locking ring in position and gently press down. Then we'll take the pry bar or the screwdriver and we will get this locking ring started. You might have to put some down pressure on the tank before you actually hit it with the dead blow. So I got the tab started underneath each of the rings. Now I'm gonna hit it with the dead blow until the bump goes past the indentation that's molded into the S&B tank. Next, we're gonna be plugging off the vent as well as the rollover vent on the sending unit, since we're gonna be using the vent here and the rollover vent here on the S&B tank. So we're gonna push on this cap. Tilt the clamp that way. Then you're either gonna have a push-on connector or you're gonna have a rubber cap for this connector. And we'll just plug that on there and tighten up this hose clamp. Now we're gonna punch the hole here in our rubber cap so we can get our compressed air through there. Then I'm gonna attempt to do this by myself, but plug off both of these holes. Okay. Now what we're gonna do is watch the sending unit area to make sure we got a good seal with the O-ring. If you have soapy water, it'd be good to spray some soapy water around there. But if not, you can just listen to see if you hear any air from that area. You will hear some air coming from here because this won't be a perfect seal. You can feel the walls expand. There'll be some air coming from the vent on the front. But don't hear anything here, don't see anything here. Since we're moving the vent line from the sending unit onto the S&B tank, we're gonna go ahead and shorten this up about 6 inches so there's no kinks in the line. It's a nice, easy transition. Now we're gonna push on that hose onto the barb fitting. Then we're gonna tighten up our zip tie. Once you get the tank a little bit higher, then you can reconnect the electrical connector. Now we're ready to install the S&B straps. The longer of the 2 straps is gonna go in the rear. Then the shorter one's gonna go right where the front strap was. So to start, we're gonna go and get it hooked onto the driveline side. Then we're gonna hand tighten it to this cage nut here. After the front and the rear bolts are tightened up, now you can torque them down. Now we're gonna reconnect both these fuel line connectors, the green one as well as the yellow. So simply it's gonna be pushed on. Make sure you hear the click. Snap in the locking tab, and again, the yellow one. Then again, slide in the locking tab. Okay, so we're all set up here. Now we're gonna go to the rear part of the tank and reconnect the hose clamp onto the filler neck. Before putting the filler onto the S&B tank, place this white inlet check valve into the filler hose with the arrow going into the tank. You'll need to push it in a little bit. Now you're going to tighten up the hose clamp on that filler neck. So just you want to hold the hose clamp in place, face the head towards the rear of the vehicle, which will be the easiest for you, and just get it nice and tight. Last step is we're going to be zip tying the breather vent line with the green cap. Zip tie that to the filler neck. and make sure that there's no sags in that line. Now the installation's complete. Put at least 5 gallons in the tank, then head to the fuel station and make sure there's no leaks after filling up the tank. And again, this fits all 2011 and up GM Duramax crew cab short bed trucks. If you have any questions, please feel free to call or text us anytime, 909-675-1313. Thank you.